Okay, so now we're going to put the material, the texture, onto the fish. So we're just looking at this all over the place. We're going to use just a really simple kind of texture for this. But before we start actually making the textures, we need to select certain sets that will allow us to put different textures on different parts of the fish. So to begin with, I'm going to select out the fins and tail, because I want to make them sort of a little bit transparent, maybe slightly lighter in colors, sort of try to make them look kind of more fishy and thinner. I'm starting with using the loop selection to sort of get the basic ones, because that'll just wrap around and get both sides at the same time. But then I'm going to go back and use the live selection polygon tool just to kind of get everything selected. So I need to be very careful to make sure that I get all of the fins and tail selected, polygon selected, so then I can then make something called a set selection out of these that I can later use to apply color to just texture to just that area. So I'm going around selecting, all the tail pieces here. Oops, need more of that. And then I need to make sure I get the tops and bottoms of this. And get the bottom there. Okay, then I'm going to go under selection, make sure everything's covered here, and go under selection and all the way down to set selection, which gives you this little orange triangle. And down below where it says you can name it, and you should name it because we're going to do several of these, called this one fin. And I just need to make sure that that set selection is deselected before you can do the next set. So now I'm going to go in and do the white or yellow of the eye. Get both of those, go back to set selection. You'll see that when you first do it, it has a little square around the triangle. You want to make sure that you deselect that. There we go. And then you can go back and do the next one. So now I'm doing the black part of the eye. And just get everything there and go back to set selection, go in and name this one black eyes and deselect it, go back, and I need to get the mouth, loop selection and then the live selection, so I get all those polygons, and go back, set selection again, name this one mouth inside or inside mouth, and deselect it. And now I'm ready to start making the materials. So I'm going to go in and create new, and I'm going to use something called rust. So I'm going into texture, down to surfaces, find rust, and you can click on the little icon and change the color. So I want to make this, I don't want a blue fish, so I'm going to make this more of a goldfish and change those colors, and you can go in and change the amount. That's too white a little, that's too orange, somewhere in between. By lowering the frequency, I can make it a little more splotchy looking, maybe something like that looks good. And I want to do a little bit of reflection, and just the fish needs to be a little reflective. And I'm going to add something called a bump map here. Go back to texture, back to surface, pavement. And this is just going to make it sort of like fake scales. You could do real scales. You could create a bump map of actual like fish scales, but this is a quick and easy way to do this. Alright, so control, drag to make a copy of that texture. This is going to be for the fins, so I want to go back to color and go back to the rust, and I'm going to lighten it, just so these things look a little more transparency. Go into transparent, add some transparency to it, and something like that we'll try. And so that's good. So now I'm going to make another new material. This is going to be for the yellow or white yellow of the eye. And so that's a nice yellow. I'm going to make it kind of shiny, just so he looks like a healthy fish. And that's good. Make another new material. This is going to be for the black part of the eye. You could do this, all ahead of time like this, or you can do it in bits and pieces and build this as you go. Not quite so shiny, because then it kind of doesn't look black anymore. And one last copy of the original fish material. And this is going to be for the inside of the mouth, so this is going to be darker, because obviously the inside of the mouth would be dark. And that's good. It's a little shiny. I don't want to have the light shining in his mouth, so I turn off the reflection there. Okay, then I start to apply these. Drag it onto cube. Make sure it's onto cube, not onto HyperNURBS. We're going to go into projection of flat, which looks pretty good. And then we need to reduce the height and length to about 25%. This is more for the texture, for the bump map part, than really for the texture part. And so that looked pretty good. Now I need to start doing the individual pieces. I'm going to start with the yellow of the eye, drag it, put it on the cube, and then I need to, you'll see down below there's a place where it says selection, and you drag the set selection, appropriate set selection, down into there. And same with the black. I drag the black onto cube, and then drag the set selection that I made. There it is. Drag it down onto the selection line, and there they are. So now the fins, everything gets dragged onto cube, and then the fin set selection goes down. And last but not least is the mouth. I need to do the mouth, so the mouth goes onto cube, and the set selection for the mouth goes down onto there. I'm going to change that projection to flat just so it matches the rest of the fish. Okay, so let's render that, see what we've got. That's not bad. You have to imagine eventually this guy will be in sort of a blue, watery looking area, also not black like this. Okay, so there he is. One last thing to do, and that is when we start to animate this, he tends to swim through his skin. So we need to go into Tag, down to Stick Texture, and that goes on the cube. And now when we animate him, he'll